Voices to hear.
Zdravo, zdravo! Welcome to Voices to Hear. This is Dáša speaking, and sitting here with me is this episode's guest Dafina Veselinoska. Hi Dafina, nice to meet you.
Hi Dáša, nice to meet you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming. I got a chance to read your CV and I was very impressed by the variety of your activities. To let our listeners in on at least some of your talents, let me make a small recap. Dafina, a local to Skopje, is a student of comparative literature, a published writer and poet, piano player, an activist, a photographer, a dancer, a singer, a baker, a vinyl enthusiast, an art lover, and a former babysitter. Unfortunately, due to our limited time, we won't be able to cover all of your activities, so I would like to focus on literature and activism today. But first, I would like to know how you are managing your time to be able to enjoy all of your activities.
Well, I'm not managing my time very well.
Okay.
Sometimes, some days I'm very busy and I do a lot of things at once. I'm very enthusiastic about life. I want to do as much as possible, like take photos and, play instruments and write and go to events. And then other days I just lay in bed and read and that's it. But it's just like recharging and then doing things and then recharging and doing things. So
Oh, that's a great system.
thank you.
And how do you choose the activities that you want to be doing at the time?
Well, it's just what I feel like. For example, writing, I need, in order to continue being sane and live, I need to write because
Okay,
that's how
that's
I
very
deal with
nice.
things. Yeah, and then, I go to ballet class 2 times a week. And then when I think about it, I will, play some songs on the guitar or the piano or something like that. And then sometimes I will bake something. And yeah.
So you play guitar as well, right?
Yeah.
Wow, you're
Yeah.
so talented.
Thank you. I just play some chords. I just know some chords and then I do
Okay,
some
that's very
songs.
cool.
And yeah, thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you for the answer. You are currently studying comparative literature. The name would suggest that you compare books. However, my limited knowledge and quick Google search left me a little confused, as there appears to be a general confusion of what comparative literature actually does and should do. So, can you maybe explain to me and our listeners what comparative literature focuses on and what is its purpose?
Well, yes, as you said, there are a couple of things that are its focus. It's regarded as a discipline, so it's not like a science. So there is different approaches to comparative literature. For example, one of the things it does is it tracks the development of different literatures. For example, the French literature, as separate national literatures, but also literature movements like ancient literature and then romanticism, realism, things like that. But also what it does as well is it compares the different literatures. So what did romanticism look like in France? What did it look like in England? Things like that. But the purpose is to find out more about, well, yeah, books, literature, but also about human beings and what they
Okay.
some themes that are consistent from I don't know, the first century until the 21st century. Yeah, but also it doesn't talk about just literature and books. It also talks about movies and music and paintings and photographs. We have subjects about all of these things that we study, so it's interdisciplinary. Yeah,
So
it's
you
very fun.
basically are not just comparing literature, but
Yeah.
also whole cultures, right?
Yes, really. It really what you said. It's about culture, fundamentally.
And what part of the comparative literature or what parts of the world are you most interested in the field?
Well, as I'm still studying, I'm still finding stuff out, so I'm becoming more and more interested in something, losing interest in other things. But as of now, I would say maybe I'm more interested now in feminist literature or reading, in my personal time, what I like is reading and comparing books by, I don't know, Sylvia Plath, Annie Ernaux, and reading what they've written and then comparing the themes in their works, because they're women from the 20th century. So,
For example, you were talking about French literature, right?
Yeah.
So, what literature are you like maybe the most interested in, like the historically or like the culturally, or what parts of the whole subject as a comparative literature you find most comfortable and most like interesting to study?
I would have to say the interdisciplinary aspect, because I really love, like, when looking at a topic. Like, for example, for one essay, I looked at the topic of father-son relationships and dysfunctional father-son relationships more specifically, and I looked at Kafka, and like I want to use this book, Who Killed My Father by Edward Louis, uh, and but also like I include paintings, like there's this painting by Goya, that is like Kronos eating his son.
Okay.
So it's like to connect the painting and the works of art, and then maybe if there was a movie about this I would include it as well. Yeah, that's what's more interesting.
So
Most
you
interesting.
basically bring a team into the discussion, and for the team you find like everything from everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's very interesting to like connect different things together.
Okay.
That's what's most interesting. Like even if there was like music, I would connect that to like whatever comes to my mind. That's what I like to do the most. Like connect those things from different art forms.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Like how it can combine into each other.
Yeah,
But
they blend.
then the name is kind of confusing, don't you think? Like comparative literature, and basically you are doing everything, even the literature, but everything else as well.
Yeah, it's I wasn't aware of that when I first started studying, that it would be like this, that we would have like we had a subject about paintings and photographs, like visual works of art. So it's like, why are we studying that in literature? But
Yes.
it's really all connected. And for me, it comes very naturally that it's like that. Or for example, we had like last semester a subject about film. So it's like, why we're studying literature, but it's film. Well, it's like they all come together, they blend together. So it's like,
You can't have one without the other.
I mean, you can, but it's like to gain a deeper understanding of it,
Yes.
it really helps. You just broaden your knowledge about theories and in art and everything. So it really deepens what you're studying. That's why.
Yes, that makes sense, I think.
Yeah.
So we can maybe move to another question. What drew you to this field, and what are your future aspirations?
Well, it's very funny how I decided to study this, because like when I was a teenager and still didn't know what I wanted to study, and I was thinking about being a stewardess.
Oh,
And
really?
yes, so I told this to my aunt that I'm close with, and she heard me and she was like, "No, no, no, you have to go to university. Like you like reading and writing so much." So she was like, "I know what would be perfect for you. It would be comparative literature." And I was like, "What is that?" I didn't know about it, hadn't heard of it. And but once she said that to me, it like got stuck in my mind, and I couldn't think about anything else. Then I saw like the program, and I, I didn't understand maybe the program like I do now, but I was like, wow, it's like I want this. Don't know what this is exactly, but I want it, and so it's just like I just decided to do it.
You
I
have
don't
really
know.
great aunt then.
Yeah,
She really knows
yeah,
you.
she really knew me, and it's just very interesting how people can like influence in a good way the decisions we
Yes.
make by knowing us. As for my aspirations, I I didn't like start to study this just thinking what I want to do with it. So I didn't know, like I still don't know maybe what I want to do with this, but I'm getting more and more ideas with like every next subject that I study, every next book that I read. Like obviously I want to write. I do write, so I want to publish maybe more. And I don't know, maybe I will go for a master's thesis in literature or something else that's
Okay.
connected. But yeah.
Yeah, that's very cool. Moving on. What can literature tell us about changes through the history of nations and society?
Well, even though literature is like obviously regarded as fiction, like what we're studying mainly, it's fiction, like it's not history about like wars and stuff, but it can still give us in-depth information through the fiction because it like documents history. It's like it can't escape it because like if you're writing about something that happened in the 1960s, you have to do research of what happened in that time in that place where you're writing it. Or if you read something that's written from the 18th century, it like it can't escape its context and what was happening around it, so you learn whether you want to or not. Like you can really learn about like society of that time and nations. But for example, like when we read novels by Balzac, from like obviously a French author, and he was writing, we can learn about what's elegant and not in society at that time, and like what kind of costumes they had, what did they do.
Do you maybe also see like changes in the language as well?
Yes, for sure, that too. But it's like comparative literature doesn't really like it's not its main field, like to think about
Okay,
language
so you like
that
don't do
much.
linguistics.
Yeah, linguistics, no. We had like a subject in first year where it was mandatory to our mother tongue, but also we had like a few that we could choose, like few subjects that are like to learn a language. So I chose Russian, but I don't know anything. So
I mean, it's fine. Like people forget the language,
yeah, but it's
so
like it's not its main point. That's what I want to say. Yeah.
yes. Do you think there is a practical way comparative literature can have an effect on today's society? Can something be implemented into the daily lives of our listeners?
Well, yes, for sure. Because what I think comparative literature teaches mainly is like critical thought and the ability to think critically. And for sure, I think in today's society that can be implemented because we have like so many fake news and informations and things like that. And if you can think critically, you can like analyze stuff and see what's true, what's false. But also with conspiracy theories and things like that, it's like always useful to have critical thought. So
Yes, and it maybe promotes also like imagination or
oh, for sure, yeah, you get a lot of ideas. Like I feel very inspired after 3 years of studying. Now I feel like I have so many more ideas about like different projects I want to do and how I would like solve them and execute them.
okay, so it's very important for like thinking and development of the brain.
Yes, for sure, for sure. And also, as you said, the imagination. Yes.
Since the beginning of your studies, has the way you read and understand literature changed in any way?
Yeah, so my critical thought is much more developed. Like I think more critically. I also see, I'm able to see through all the theories we've learned, like I'm able to see the intention behind the book I'm reading now in my free time or whatever. And also, like I see more than the story now when I read. Like if let's say before I started to study this, I read a story and I was like, oh, that's a nice story. Now I'm like, what is the point of this? I understand more about like how it is written, the writing techniques, obviously, and but also what it can represent. And I connected what I said before, like about the interdisciplinary connections it can have with other like books and movies or whatever. So yeah, and also the books I read have changed, and I don't feel the need to read everything anymore. Like before, I was like, I want to read every single book there is when I started studying, and now I'm like, no, there's no need for that, because I can just choose I know about what I want to read more now. Like it's because I know myself more now. Whether it's because I'm like older, obviously, but I think it's also because of what I study.
So, on what base do you choose your books now?
It's just if something speaks to me, and I'm also less rigid with myself, because before I was like, I have to finish the book. Like if I start a book, I have to finish it. It's like that's it, or I have to read it to the end. But now I like read more books at once. If I see a book and I like it, I will read it. But before, I kind of like, if I see a book, I kind of want to read it, so I will buy it anyway, and because I think it's a good book to have read. But it doesn't mean, like it doesn't mean that I really want to read it now.
Okay, yeah.
If that makes any
It
sense.
does make sense because, like, we can't read all the books in the world. There is
Yeah,
no time for that. And sometimes you just have to choose, like, what speaks to you and
yeah,
what you think has a meaning for you. So that's nice.
yeah. I don't feel like the pressure anymore to read like also like important works of art that are deemed important by critics or whatever. That now I'm like, it doesn't, I don't have to, who says I have to read? Just because I study
Yes.
literature, like I don't have to read the Odyssey,
Yeah.
or like big important works, even though we've read books like that, but it doesn't mean I have to read them all that are deemed important. It's okay if I just find a little book that no one knows about, no one talks about, and I just read it, and it makes a difference to me.
Yes. Some of our listeners may be choosing their major soon, so who would you maybe recommend to go and study comparative literature?
Well, first of all, obviously, whoever wants to should go study that, like, and not give it a second thought. I would recommend. But also, like, for someone who doesn't know what they want to study and they're finding about comparative literature, maybe if they're someone who really wants to like get to know themselves, and obviously every human being that, like with aging and getting older, they naturally know more about themselves. But I feel like with studying by studying this, it's like I feel like this is a gift I gave to myself. Like this 4 years that I get to study this is like a time for myself that I can like learn about art and literature, and through art and literature get to know myself more and what I want out of life. So it's even if I don't end up doing this long for longer, even if I don't know after this I become a doctor or a scientist or something that's unrelated, it's still like I've gotten to know myself on a higher level that I feel it that only comparative literature allows. I don't know. It's for me, I see it at least that way.
That's a very interesting way to put it, and I also really liked how you said that it's a gift to yourself.
Yeah, it is because many people, if you tell them like I will study comparative literature, they're like, "What are you gonna do with that?"
Yes.
Like obviously you can be a critic, you can be a professor maybe someday, uh, but like you can be an editor, but it's not like very lucrative. It's not like being an engineer or other things like that. Like people are like, why? First of all, people are like, what is that, and why would you waste time with that? But so I said, even if it's a waste of time, even if I don't end up finding a job with this, even if it's not lucrative for me, which by the way, don't listen to that, like it can be. But even if it's not in the end, it's still, I will never regret it. Because it's, yeah, as I said, it's like a gift to myself. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's like I've gotten to know it's like it's an investment in yourself. Like you get to know yourself on a spiritual higher level. I feel like I don't know, maybe it doesn't make sense, but to me I just feel like that.
It makes so much sense actually because sometimes I feel like people stopped understanding the society itself, and
Mm.
maybe comparative literature can be kind of like a step inside of the knowledge of society as a whole, because you have, as you mentioned, like literature, paintings, movies, and stuff, and that's basically like collective knowledge of societal culture. So
Yes, for sure, for sure. And it's not like we study that, like we don't have a class named society, but it's what I said. It's like the critical thinking, the imagination, also the resources. Like it taught me how to look for information, reliable information, like not, I don't know, random articles on Wikipedia, like not that, but really how to find like books, and y- that way I can, like it taught me how I can acquire knowledge by myself.
yes, that's very important skill. We have covered your comparative literature studies. We know that you are a reader, but as I mentioned at the beginning, you are also a writer. You have participated in many poetry readings and have contributed to several publications. Some of your work has been published even in our Voices magazine. What inspires you while writing?
Well, first, I would like to share a quote by Joan Didion, which is a writer that I really love. And she said, is also the name of one of her books. She says, "We tell ourselves stories in order to live." And that's really how I see also my writing and while I write, why I write, because it's truly like I. I just need to write. It's like a compulsive need to process life and emotions, and also like we live in such a confusing and wild times, so yeah, it's like a way to cope, as I said. But also I write poetry as well as prose, so what inspires me is like different, because for poetry, like emotion itself is what inspires me. Like I will just feel something and I will need to write it down and get it out, and it becomes a poem somehow. So I like try to deal with my emotions that way. But when I write prose, it's like I construct it more. Like I build a whole world. So it's not just personal problems that motivate me to write prose, inspired me, but also it's like societal and something like, for example, I'm a feminist, so like feminist topics or
Yes.
the topics that interest feminists like inspire me to like analyze,
The problem?
yeah, problems of society.
Yes. So when you are writing poetry, you're kind of writing for yourself and
Yes.
to kind of make yourself feel better, but also to show the emotions. But when you're writing prose or like the feminist literature, you're basically writing for everyone else to kind of read and learn something.
Yeah. I mean, not to learn really, but it's like a way to also explain to myself why something is the way it is through like writing a short story about something, maybe, or it doesn't have to be like I don't know if it's like a feminist like what I write, but it's those kind of problems like interest me. Like I don't know, I haven't written much, and I've also been writing poetry for much longer than prose. Like prose, I just started writing like year ago, 2 years ago. So I'm still, I don't know, I'm still different things inspire me. But yeah, it's maybe like more analytical, more objective, I would say. So like yeah, what inspires me, I guess it would be like
Yeah, okay.
societal
I think
problems.
that maybe answers the next question as well.
Yeah, it kind
If
of
you like
goes.
prefer writing poetry or prose, so I guess you prefer poetry.
Well, now I don't. So I started when I was like 13. I started writing poetry, and I saw it as a way to deal with my emotions when I was
Yep.
13. Because like you're a teenager, you have crushes, you have no one to talk to.
Yes, turbulent times in life, and
Yeah, it's. I would never go back to being a teenager. Would you?
I mean, not really, I
Yeah, it's
guess.
horrible, right?
Yeah.
So I preferred writing poetry, but now it's like the poems I write have gotten so personal to the point that I don't know, I don't feel really comfortable even sharing them. So I've turned to prose as a way to just write something that I can share really lately. So yeah, lately I prefer prose.
So maybe we'll see something from your prose in the future editions of Voices magazine.
I hope so. They still like my short stories. They still need work, but yeah, I hope so.
Very nice. So, as you've said, you like to write about feminists and feminism in your prose. Is there some other topics that you like to explore in your works?
So yeah, feminism, but also societal problems and topics, and like analyzing people and characters, but also perennial themes that are like love, death, like that are important for every human being. It's like obviously I don't think any writer can escape those, or like
Yes.
artist.
I feel like writers usually kind of always deal with what's happening currently, and in a way, they maybe try to incorporate it inside their works, and also kind of deal with their own issues while writing, no?
Yes, yeah, I would say. Yeah, that's how it is.
While reading your resume, I have noticed that you have received an award for contribution to youth activism for guerrilla actions. Can I ask you how you got this award? What did you have to do to receive it?
Yeah, so I was a participant in like many, like a series of guerrilla actions. And yeah, I was working with the non-governmental organization Equalis.
What projects were you working on? Like, what was the goal of the guerrilla action?
Well, Equalis is like an organization that deals with equality. That's what Equalis means in Latin. It's equality in society, obviously for like obviously men and women, but also like for different sexualities. So yeah, so for one thing, I was a part of their activist choir.
Okay, and what does activist choir do? Because I have never heard of such a thing.
Yeah, well, we prepared, like we had like he's an opera singer, so he was like our conductor, and he prepared us. We were learning like songs that were like on theme for what we wanted to protest against, and we went to different locations that were appropriate, different institutions, and we sang like the
So
chosen song.
basically, you were grabbing attention of people by singing in public.
Kind of, yeah, but not just that. It was like about the institutions, not just random people on the street,
Okay,
but it was like in protest
that
for
sounds
yeah.
interesting as a form of process because
Yeah, it's but that's what guerrilla is, right? Like it's
yes,
performative kind
yeah,
of.
I feel like that's a very creative way of making your voice heard, literally.
Yeah, literally, yeah. But that's how I got into their organization anyway with the choir. So
And what kind of project are you like especially proud of?
there was this guerrilla action that I was a part of, and so okay, I need to explain this. There's this book. It's called 12 Horror Stories from Women Workers, and it's like from Macedonian women workers, but it's published in English, and it's by Kristina Bajurska, and then she collected these stories from women workers that were working like in horrible conditions. So for the 1st of May, which is holiday for workers, we like chose some of these stories, and the really horror stories, like they're really horrible.
Okay.
So we went in front of the Ministry for Employment and Social Politics, and like with a megaphone. It's like my proudest moment in my life because I was holding a megaphone.
Oh wow.
And yeah, we were reading this, like I was one of the people who were reading on a megaphone these horror stories in front of the ministry. It was like a form, it's like a relaxation. So it was a form of protest to try
Yes.
and like bring a change for them,
Yes.
like and
And
protest against these horrible conditions in which they work.
the stories were like from recent history or
Yeah, they're like I can't remember when it is exactly published, but
okay.
it's recent. Yeah.
Yeah. That's very important cause to kind of protest and also you chose like important day for workers, so it
Yeah,
made it
it's
kind of
symbolic.
yes.
Yeah, it was
Yes.
very, yeah, I'm very proud of that.
So when we are talking about like activism and protesting, from my own experience, I can say that a lot of young people feel paralyzed by the fact that they would like to do something, create a change, give something back to the world, but they do not know where to start, who to ask for help, or they feel scared to take action. Do you have any advice for them? What do you think is the most impactful way young people can make a difference in their communities?
So, yes, I actually can relate to that because I also feel sometimes paralyzed because I want to do something like with the world and with the state it's in, but don't know what exactly. Uh, but what I can say is like joining a non-governmental organization is like the easiest way to get yourself doing something and giving back to the community, but also obviously volunteering. You probably can recommend that.
Yes, definitely. Volunteering is the way.
Yes.
When we talk about volunteering and activism in like non-governmental organizations, what is it like in Macedonia or Skopje? Is the youth participating in public life? Do you feel like they are seeking change? Are they parts of the non-governmental organizations, or do they kind of like seek out the way to help out?
Well, yes, I think they're very active. Like they're organizing protests, and they're definitely active in the organizations. Which I'm gonna say, like for myself, I would like to be more active. Like as of lately, I'm not that active, especially not in an organization. Like I go to some protests, but that's it. So, but I think that with everything that's been happening, especially in our country, the young people, I feel like we feel that we have no choice but to act, to be active, like to go to a protest and maybe something more than that. So yeah, I'm very optimistic about that.
So you feel like the young people will bring a change in the future?
Yes, I really, I hope so. I don't know, like if we don't bring a change now, I don't know what will happen.
And my last question for you is if you could give one piece of advice to young writers or activists, what would it be?
Well, I really don't feel like I'm in a position to give advice to activists because I really I need advice from activists. For writing though, maybe if I could give like one, if I could say one thing, it would be to observe and to get to know yourself and to don't feel like if you're someone who writes, don't feel the pressure to publish. I would say.
Yeah, that's very nice advice. Because
Yeah.
sometimes writing has to be just for ourselves and doesn't have to be like some masterpiece that is gonna be in bestsellers on the New York Times or something.
Yeah, and you also will publish when you are ready.
So, Dafina, thank you for answering all of my questions and taking the time of your day to come here. It was very enlightening to be here with you.
Thank you so much for having me, Dasha. It was very, very nice to talk to you.
Thanks goes also to all of our listeners. It's always a pleasure to spend time with you. You are listening to Voices to Hear. Hear you again next time.
Voices to Hear.